Now will we see the magic?
All right, where's Murray? Okay, who is it?
This is Jesus, kid.
Know then that it is the year 10,191.
Yes, we are bored. We're all bored now.
Hi, good night.
Good night.
Ciao e benvenuti a Mary vs. the Movies con la vostra ospite Mary Jones.
Mi dispiace, Dennis Ling.
Questa settimana guardiamo il film Cinema Paradiso. That's as much Italian as you're going to get from me. I had to look a little bit up. And yes, all of those months of Duolingo has brought you that.
Did it?
I mean, look, I'm sticking with it. Even though we've already gone to Italy and come back.
Yeah.
So yes, hi. Welcome to Mary versus the Movies with your host, Mary Jones.
And Dennis Ling.
And this week, we are back from our trip to Italy. And yeah, it was amazing. It was, life-changing? I don't know, possibly.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely.
It was awesome.
It was, yeah, I don't even know how to.
Though we missed out, we were walking around in Rome, and we found a cinema or a cinema.
Oh yeah, that's
and
true.
we saw a poster for Gladiator 2, but it was coming out like the following week.
Oh my God, we could have Could you imagine if
I would have loved to have watched that in Italian.
You don't even like Gladiator.
I still would have been fun, and I don't hate it. I don't know.
You're like the only person I know who hates the movie Gladiator.
I don't hate it. It underwhelms me.
Well, look, I'm hoping that the film that we're going to watch this week is not underwhelming.
Yeah.
Because what we're going to watch actually has won an Academy Award, at least one.
So did Gladiator.
Well, yeah. Yeah, that won Best Picture, didn't it? Look, a lot of things win Best Picture that really don't deserve it.
Yeah.
I guess the Oscars aren't really that much of a benchmark. You know.
You know, we'll watch Gladiator soon, and maybe it's better than I remember. I don't know.
Do you want to see Gladiator 2?
Yeah, I do.
See, that's okay. Let's not go off. Look, the point is, so yes, we were in Italy. It was amazing. One night, Dennis and I were walking around in Rome, and we walked past a movie theater, and they had up a poster for Gladiator 2, and of course it's all in Italian, and I just kept thinking to myself, like, how amazing would it be to be in Rome and watch Gladiator 2 and have it all dubbed into Italian,
Yeah,
which
like
is
just a few blocks away from the Forum.
Right, exactly. Like, we were not a long walk from the Forum, and I just kept thinking, what do I gotta do to just have an extra week here? Well, have money, which we don't have. So we did not get to watch Gladiator 2 opening in Italy in extremely late vulgar Latin, like the latest possible vulgar Latin you can have. Oh God, it would have been great.
Yeah.
But instead, we are back in Pennsylvania, and but this week we're going to watch a movie it is Italian. It's in Italian. We have to watch subtitles. This movie won the best foreign language film for the Oscars that it were, I guess.
How old is that category?
I don't know.
I was just wondering.
I have no idea.
Maybe after this we'll read about it. We'll figure it out.
Sure.
Yeah.
I mean, you're asking a very good question because, obviously in the silent era, it didn't matter. And then once, we had talkies. So I'm talking about a period of, 2 years, 1 year, 1 year, where it didn't matter. And then all of a sudden, language matters. I don't know when they came up with the best foreign language Oscar, but this definitely got it.
Yeah.
All right. We've watched other films in foreign languages, but we have not covered an Italian film for the show yet.
I'm hoping we do a horror film at some point.
Like a giallo or something?
Yeah.
Yeah, that would rock. The film we're watching this week, it's called Cinema Paradiso. Anybody I've brought this film up to has said, "Oh, this is an amazing movie. This is a brilliant film. They love it. They think it's fantastic." I know it's actually about movies in a way. So I know a little bit about this film. It's like a Italian / I think like the production company may have been French, but the film's in Italian.
Where is it set?
Italy.
Do you know a town or?
It's a coming of age story about a kid growing up in Sicily after the Second World War who spends all of his time at like the local movie house, and he falls in love with film. And that's kind of all I know. I just know that it's about movies. It's about being a kid. It's about growing up after a war. So I don't know anything more about the film than that, right?
What year did it come out?
88.
That's earlier than I remember.
So do you know this movie?
Oh, I remember when it was out, but was it out like a few years after it came out?
Why
or?
do you remember this film?
Oh, because, like when I was younger, I would watch the Academy Awards, so.
Oh, when you were younger as opposed to all the times I've dragged you out to watch it?
Yeah.
Yeah. So do you know anything about this movie?
No.
Okay.
I don't.
Well, I've told you.
I know there's a kid and, like the...
Yeah, literally the words I just said.
Yeah, there's an old guy and there's a kid. There's an old guy and a kid, and they watch movies in a theater. And you
what freaks?
And you see the lights on their faces.
Wow, it sounds like you're really well versed in what this movie is.
I know what it looks like.
Yeah, that's good. Okay, so let me ask you, why do you know what it looks like? Is it just from commercials, or?
Yeah, and I watched the Academy Awards. They show the clips through the whole thing.
Okay,
it just sticks. That kind of stuff sticks in my head.
All right. So, is there anything else you know about this movie?
No.
Well, great, because neither do I.
Yeah. You seem like you're like, you think I'm lying or something.
I mean, a little bit. Look, when this movie came out in the United States, 88, probably by 89 to 90, it would have come out over here.
Yeah. You
were in college.
Well, I was going to college.
Yeah, so, you probably went and saw art films.
Yeah,
I was in elementary school, so I don't know.
Yeah, I didn't really get into art films until I went to Tyler. For some reason, I didn't see a lot that first year. My first year, I went to this associate's degree school called Hushin School of Art, which was right by the Reading Terminal in Philadelphia. I got to eat at Reading Terminal every day, which was great.
So do you have any ideas about this movie? I know I'm turning the tables on us here, but do you have any ideas about this movie?
No.
Okay. Well, I guess this is going to be a short introduction then. Yeah, because, look, I've basically told you what I know.
Uh-huh.
I don't really know anything else.
Do you think the kid is in a love affair or something with, like, a girl or something?
Oh, I mean, look, if this is supposed to be, like, some sort of coming-of-age story, it depends on how far he ages. Look, I'm sure, like, at some point, if they follow him through being, like, because, like, okay, so I bought the DVD at a garage sale. It was probably a library sale. I don't remember. But, like, the point is, so I've had this DVD sitting around for a while, and I see, like, this kid on it, right? But if this follows him as a coming-of-age story, I assume that means he gets older, right? Which means, yes, I assume at some point he has a romance as a young man.
Okay.
So, sure, that probably happens.
Like, because it's an older guy showing him the movies, maybe the older guy is showing him silent films.
Ooh, there's an interesting idea.
Yeah.
Yeah, because if this starts in, like, the 40s.
And so maybe it's Méliès or,
Oh, okay.
That'd be interesting.
Now there's a good question. Like, do you think that there are clips from films that we would know? When I say we, I mean me and you, not necessarily the audience. Because, you and I, we know, sound films. We've watched a lot. Old films from the 30s, whatever.
Yeah.
I'm curious as to whether you think that this film is going to be referencing stuff.
Like, we have definite gaps.
I didn't say we didn't.
Yeah.
Dennis, the premise of the show is gaps.
I know. I'm just saying, I don't feel like a silent movie master.
No, me either. Definitely
I
not.
mean, I've seen a lot of Buster Keaton.
Sure.
We saw a bunch of 1927 films.
Yeah.
And some 1928 films, but
Yeah. Charlie Chaplin.
There's a bunch of stuff in the 20s I really wish I'd seen.
Well, you've seen Murnau. You know, you've seen.
But I haven't seen Nosferatu yet.
Oh, all right.
We were going to, and what happened? Something happened. I don't know.
Yeah, life.
Yeah.
Yeah, things just kind of happen.
That's right, life.
Yeah.
Huh.
All right. So
why are we not independently wealthy?
That would make this show so much easier.
I know. We should be riding around on a Zeppelin, watching films.
We're not doing your whole Zeppelin plan, folks. He has a whole thing about how he was going to revolutionize like transatlantic travel because he was going to revive the Zeppelin.
Not really revolutionize, just bring it back. I just
oh
things...
What are you going to like return with a V?
I just want things to go slower.
No, I agree with that. Too many things are way too fast.
Yeah.
Do you have any thoughts on this film?
All right. So, are there dogs? Do you think there's a dog? I feel like there's definitely a dog.
There's got to be a dog somewhere.
Some scrappy dog in the street.
Yeah, something that poor pup who survived the Second World War.
Yeah, and is in the theater with him.
Yeah. Dog in a theater.
I know.
That's great.
Just like the rabbit in Donnie Darko.
Or like a dog that gets loose in a church.
Yeah. That too.
Yeah.
I think.
Wait, hold on a second. I just clocked what you said. Hold on. Like the rabbit in Donnie.
You know, the friendly rabbit.
Not a friendly rabbit. That's a harbinger of death. What are you, Dennis? What? Dennis, I hope to God there isn't. No, I really hope there isn't a rabbit or a dog in here. Like, God, damn, dude. Do I want to watch this with you?
Oh, come on.
All right, come on.
All right, so do you think there's any death?
Sure. Yeah, well, I mean, if we're going to have the rabbit from Donnie Darko show up, yes. Lots of death.
This kid has to die in order for movies to live.
Oh, God.
All right, so the important thing, we're in Sicily.
Yeah.
Is there pizza?
Oh, Sicily. Pizza is like a mainland Italian thing.
Sicilian pizza. Come on.
Nobody likes it as much as like, traditional.
I know, but
Neapolitan.
Do you think there's any maybe
it's
this
a
could
casserole?
Maybe this could be another question to our
is
trio
there
of
pizza
questions.
in this movie?
Yeah.
you're opening up the trio of questions to the fourth, and the question is there pizza?
I had a fourth before. It was something dumb like are there horses or something, but I don't know.
So instead, is there pizza?
Is there pizza?
So much less dumb than are there horses? All right. Now, which one am I answering? Is there pizza? No. Are there horses? Maybe.
Yeah.
Wait, you didn't even ask if there's a love triangle.
Just don't think there's going to be a love triangle.
Okay.
I don't know.
No. That's, but you should at least ask.
Yeah, well, the thing is that I always try to filter it through what whenever I ask the questions, I'm like, well, maybe filter it through what we know.
But we don't know anything.
I know. Well, it's their love triangle.
No.
Yeah, I'm so sure there's not one.
Yeah, okay, so here's the thing. If this guy's got a girlfriend, maybe he has to beat up her ex.
Maybe it's he has to choose between women and film.
Oh, like George Lucas.
Yeah, exactly.
So, I don't know. There's probably not a love triangle. I mean, that's it. That's kind of all I know.
Mm-hmm.
And I think we've run out of road to run on here.
I think the kid has. Is the kid an orphan? Do you think he has parents, brothers, sisters?
I'll bet his dad's dead, but his mother's alive.
Okay. All right, so we got some details.
Yeah.
that we'll probably forget by the time we watch this
Absolutely.
movie.
I'm not going to remember any of this.
Okay.
All right. So in that case, vuoi guardare il film?
Yes.
Yeah.
See.
You know, a few years ago, a film came out that made me just violently angry watching it. Well, okay, a couple of films actually like that came out. But to narrow that down, Babylon, the Damien Chazelle, film about the end of the silent era into the talkies. You know, basically, what if Singing in the Rain was made by a hack? And I hate that movie, even though there are things in it to like.
Yeah.
And because for one thing, you know, part of the vibe of that film is you spend, 3 hours of, isn't Hollywood terrible? Aren't these people stupid and monsters, or, talentless or whatever, or pathetic, or just straight up pathetic? And it's this, as I said, it's basically the plot of Singing in the Rain, but done much more poorly. And, with all of the kind of gross excess that, honestly, there are things in there that I think even Kenneth Anger would look and say, you don't really need to have an elephant taking a dump on the camera, do you? I mean, actually, no, he might be fine with that. But my point being, the end of that film, I hate this movie because the end of that film is like, isn't all of this stupid? Isn't Hollywood terrible? And then the end of it is a montage of just clips of all of the great films, right?
Yeah.
As if to say, yeah, but you still love movies. But it's not a film that actually loves film, right?
Right.
It feels condescending. It feels like it's above the movie making process, right?
Yeah.
It's sneering the whole time. This movie is the exact opposite of that.
Yeah. This
film ends in a similar way with a film montage, but there's so much, it's literally about love.
Yeah.
And affection, and it is one of the most heartwarming endings, most beautiful endings I've ever seen in a film about film. And I hate the fact that I thought about Babylon watching this, which just tells you I'm watching the films in the wrong order.
Yeah,
but
it's good to have something to compare.
Yes,
yeah.
Definitely.
Yeah.
So this was amazing, right?
Yeah.
We've watched a lot of really good movies for this show. We've watched terrible films, but we watched some really great films. And you always go back to Moonstruck, and as we should.
Yeah.
But there have been others that have just kind of blown us away. Whether it's Slacker or what's another great movie we've watched? Tampopo is great.
Yeah.
There's been like lots of My Dinner with Andre always comes to mind.
Yeah.
Hell,
Something Wild.
Merry Christmas, Mr. Lawrence, I thought was amazing.
Yeah.
The Last Emperor. This is up there. This is incredibly high on our list.
Yeah.
Now, we watched the theatrical cut. We did not watch the 3-hour director's cut. I need to see that director's cut.
I'm very curious because the story about this film, it first came out, the longer version came out in Italy. Mm-hmm. And it was panned. It said it was too sentimental.
It's a very sentimental film.
And then a year later, it came out at Cannes, but it was cut down. They chopped a lot out of it, and that was the version that's like, oh, this is Italian cinema is now back on the map.
Right.
And from what I've heard, it sounds like most of what was cut was the love story between him and Elena.
Yeah.
Maybe it is not as good a film with the extra stuff. So
I've heard that. I don't know. I've heard that it's even better with all of the extra stuff. But
right.
Who knows?
Yeah.
I don't think it's.
I mean, it was over 3 hours.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. And as far as the love story in this, I mean, it's certainly there. It's not as if it's like missing from the film.
Yeah.
You know, it's just that it's not the main focus of the film, which is fine, you know. But, you know, I'm curious as to see, like, you know, how would, you know, more of the story of Toto, Salvatore, and Elena, like, do we need it? I don't know. I'd be curious to see.
Mm-hmm.
So this film, it is what I thought it was, insofar as, yes, it is set post-war Italy, Sicily, in fact, and, you know, it's a boy who is kind of taken under the wing of the guy who runs the movie house. No, he doesn't actually run the movie house. He is the film projector.
Mm-hmm.
And this kid is, you know, always sneaking off to go to the movies, and, you know, he's a typical kid. He gets in trouble, you know, he falls asleep as an altar boy during mass. He's always like kind of, you know, running off with, like, you know, the grocery money and spending it on, like, you know, sandwiches and movies and stuff. He's a typical kid, right?
Yeah. But
he loves film, and he ends up just kind of pestering Alfredo, the projectionist, who, I don't know, I assume Alfredo doesn't have any kids.
Yeah.
Or, you know, we don't know anything about that situation. He has a wife. We do see the wife, but we never see anything about him having kids. And, you know, Toto, his father, has, you know, been killed in the war. He was, you know, part of whatever contingent was, you know, sent up to fight the Russians, which, you know, great job, guys. Great idea.
and the thing is, this whole movie is actually a flashback.
Mm-hmm.
Toto has grown up, we learn later, to be a director.
Yeah.
A famous director, and he hasn't been home in 30 years.
Right.
And Alfredo, the projectionist, has died. He's with a woman. It turns out he sleeps with a different woman every few weeks or something.
Yeah, he doesn't have any steady girls.
Yeah.
You know,
And
he's middle-aged, you know, but got gray hair.
Mm-hmm.
You know, he lives in Rome.
Yeah.
And yeah, so the movie starts in the present day.
Yeah.
And he gets a phone call from his mother back home in Sicily that Alfredo has died, you know, and we're going to have the funeral. Are you going to come home?
And what brings it all back is this bell ringing sound. I forget if the bell ringing is actually like something ringing in the room or something, but it turns out the bell in his memory is, first it's this bell that he rings as an older boy in the church, and then later it becomes a bigger part of the plot.
Well, yeah. So because this is the 1940s, and they are this small town, the local priest takes it on himself to be basically the town censor, so that he has to screen the films before Alfredo can show them in the movie house, and tells him where to cut certain things out so that the film is acceptable.
I think is he running the theater somehow?
He doesn't know. I don't think he runs the theater, but he is the local priest, so he has authority. You know, I know that sounds weird in America, except it kind of doesn't, because, you know, you had the same thing here. We just call it the MPAA.
Yeah.
So.
And who knows, next year, who knows?
Yeah. Oh, God, I know. Yeah. There is this connection between, so every time while the priest is watching the film, if he sees something that's objectionable, he rings a bell, and Alfredo puts a piece of paper in the giant spool of the film itself to kind of mark, okay, that's where I have to go back and like just cut out. And usually it's some sort of passionate scene, right?
Yeah.
It's usually people kissing or whatever. So what he ends up doing is he will trim those pieces, but he doesn't throw out those bits of film. And his argument is, well, when I send the film back, because that's how that works, at least up until, you know, we stopped having like film, and actually even now it is still sort of that way. If you actually show like 35 millimeter film, you have to get the film from a distributor, and then you have to send it back.
Yeah.
And so he has to splice that film back in, is what he says. It's implied that doesn't always happen.
Yeah.
He keeps some of the bits of film for himself, and, you know, kind of like, well, you know, it's a souvenir.
Yeah.
You know, and so he, you know, young Toto Salvatore, he is taken under the wing of Alfredo and shown basically how projectors work, right? And how does he splice film? And it's a real sort of like, this is what the job actually is. This is part of the whole film process, right? And how does nitrate film work? There's a gelatin on it, and the kid ends up like licking it, and he's like, it's sweet. He's like, okay, yeah, but don't eat the film.
Yeah.
And it's funny because I ended up thinking about the movie, the Hitchcock film Sabotage, right? If any of you've ever watched that, then you know what I'm thinking of. If you haven't, maybe you've seen Inglourious Bastards.
Yeah,
and
that's the same.
It's because it actually references the same film. Nitrate film stock, as we know, is extremely flammable and can even explode. And it's actually very dangerous because it's an organic thing, right? And this is actually something I find really fascinating in a way, is the idea that film is organic. It's living in a way.
Yeah.
Up until we started using, I guess, plastics, when it was a celluloid, when it was actually, this made from living things in a way that plastic. I know plastic is like compressed dinosaur bones or whatever, but you know what I mean by that, right?
Yeah.
So there's something kind of wonderful about the idea that film captures life, and it is in and of itself alive in its own strange way, and it's combustible, and it combusts your emotions, but it also can physically combust.
Yeah. And
there's something. It's a wonderful poetry, right, about what film is.
And in this film, it's like. It's as if it's saying, like, when things were dangerous, we felt more alive, type of thing.
I suppose it's saying that. I don't think it's. I don't think you have to take it quite that way.
Yeah.
But I do think there is something kind of wonderful and cosmic about what film was, in a way that it isn't anymore. Everything is digital, and nothing exists in any meat space anymore. And have we lost something? I mean, I kind of feel like we have. And,
I feel like we're always losing something and
Yes.
taking something for granted.
Yeah, there's that. Well, no, you're absolutely right. And there's that Brian Eno quote about the, fetishizing the snaps and pops of a record. Once we, had digital sound, then what became authentic was the imperfections.
Right.
And so essentially I'm doing the same thing. I'm doing that thing he talked about, right?
Yeah.
But at the same time, actually, just today, as I was, running errands, I was listening to a podcast. I was listening to On the Media, the WNYC show, and they had on, I guess it was Douglas Rushkoff, and he was talking about tech guys, right? And their whole thing is that they kind of just want to reduce the world into ones and zeros, into just lines of data, and they don't want to deal with, how life is squishy, right? And that, pushing back against that is to kind of embrace all the things where, yes, you can, for instance, he talks about you can auto-tune a voice, but so what? What's more interesting is listening to a person try to reach a note, and even if they're slightly off or if they fail, at least, there's something more interesting in the striving as opposed to just, punching up something digitally, right? And I feel the same way about film, and I feel the same way about music, and I love imperfection. And I love when things are a bit dirty or scratched and things don't quite work, right? But I also just love when things are organic in the sense of they're alive and there are mistakes, and I don't know that. Yeah, this is just me being like, kind of a misguided romantic. I understand that, and God knows I'm talking about art and not, say, medicine. I want to put all of the perfection into things like, getting your test results right, but I don't want them in my art. I don't think everything has to be reduced to ones and zeros, but the things that keep me alive should be. So I don't know. Yeah, I mean, maybe it is bad to be a romantic, but humans are flawed and I'm flawed. But this film, I think, is on my side, not your side, Mr. Ones and Zeros.
Well, counterpoint, ones and zeros. I think Zaslav's making a lot of
Oh
money.
no. Okay, this show is over. God. Yeah, the idea that you can just delete a film by hitting a couple of buttons on a computer is the most horrifying thing, the most anti-life sort of concept I've ever heard of. Ugh, disgusting. And is it any better than being, say, the priest that just excises all of the love scenes from a film? You know? No, David Zaslav is the same as that priest, except that priest is more sympathetic of a character.
I feel like the film is not really anti that, though.
What do you mean?
Like, the Chekhov's flaming film.
Oh yeah.
Blows up in Alfredo's face. Toto saves him, which is pretty cool.
So yeah, the film stock actually does explode at one point. It does catch fire, and the whole theater goes up in flames, and Alfredo is left blinded. Actually.
But one of the patrons of the theater, he won a lottery, and he ends up basically buying the new theater, the new Cinema Paradiso.
Yeah.
And it has this fancy new camera, and the film is not flammable.
Yeah.
On top of it, now there are sex scenes. Or not sex scenes, but there's kissing butts and yeah.
Well, yeah. Okay. Kissing butts.
Sorry.
That's not exactly right.
Yeah.
No.
There are butts and there are kissing.
Yes. Yeah. Basically, they show a clip of "And God Created Woman."
Yeah.
The film from the 50s, which has Brigitte Bardot's butt. Driving all these boys so wild with abandon that they're Mickey working it in the. For those of you who've seen Diner, they're enjoying themselves to people's consternation. No, but we're jumping ahead slightly insofar as, no, you're right, and I don't think the film is saying, "Hey, wasn't it better when film could explode?" The film is absolutely not saying that. Don't misunderstand me. I realize I went off on a weird tangent there. Yeah. So basically, what happens is, he learns to basically run the projector, and even as a child, he kind of has to take over for Alfredo, because Alfredo has been blinded by this accident. And yeah, the theater is rebuilt in the same building, and now it's like the new Cinema Paradiso, as you said. And as you say, into the 50s, because we have a jump of 10 years.
That's pretty cool too. It's because he's a little kid. Alfredo puts his hand on his cheek, and I don't even know how they do it. I think they pan back to Alfredo and then pan back to him, and he's like a young man. He's like 18 or something.
Yeah.
Or 17, and it's such a neat cut. The thing about this movie, and just kind of a lot of art films in general, it really trusts the audience with a lot of scenes where it'll just show you just enough to you get an idea for what's going on in the town and what the.
There are so many little things like that in this film. It is as much a film about just creating an atmosphere of what it is like to be in this town. And this town could be, any small town, whether it's in Sicily or it could be, when I was growing up in Boyertown and, we had the one-screen little movie theater, the State Theater, which is still there. And that's where you would go, right? It's kind of like this, but it's just life, right? There are so many of these little vignettes of life. That guy who just, sits in the balcony and hawks loogies on people, right?
Yeah.
You brought up the guy who wins the lottery and ends up, running the theater. There's
a guy who always falls asleep and people kind of play tricks on him, and he always gets up and yells at everyone. And
they're showing what is the film, the fishing film, the
the Earth Trembles or something.
Yeah, it's called The Earth Trembles, and you have these two guys who. Basically, the film has a bunch of text on screen, and the two guys are saying, "What does that say?" He's like, "I don't know, I can't read." Well, neither can I. And then Dennis, you looked up what it actually said.
What it's saying is that the poor in Sicily can't speak Italian.
Yeah. So you have these two guys who can't read, and the film's telling them they can't even speak the language.
Yeah.
They have a scene where they're showing a gangster pick, and some guy gets shot in the theater. You know, it's a hit. You know, it's basically you get.
Oh wait, I thought he just died of a heart attack.
No, man, there was a guy behind him with a gun.
Oh, I didn't notice that.
Oh, I thought he got shot. You think it was just a heart attack?
Yeah, I thought he just saw the gangster pic and died of a heart attack.
You know what? I don't know which one of us is correct.
Yeah.
I thought there was a guy behind him with a gun.
The thing is, there's so many movies that if we watch them at home or on a phone, whatever, and you can listen to the film and that's fine. You know, like most, like, you know, if you're watching like a Marvel movie, you don't need to watch 70% of it. You know, you just listen. You know, wait for the fight scene, whatever. Who cares?
Yeah, I mean, I put on a lot of movies while I'm working because I really can just listen to it. I'm not really
This movie, like, I could easily see how if you watched it that way, you'd be like, "This is the dumbest movie." Like, it's just
Well, for one thing, if you don't speak Italian, why are you listening to it? You know.
But what I'm saying is, there's so much visual stuff going on. Like, there's so much stuff that's just conveyed visually that if you're not paying attention, like you're already missing like half the film.
There's so much of this movie that is just watching people in a theater watching the film and living life while the film is going on.
Yeah.
You know, so there's like one scene where, you know, they cut to a woman and the baby is like suckling at her breast. Somewhere else in the crowd, there's basically two people having sex, you know, like surreptitiously trying to, you know, do that. And there's another scene where, you know, this woman is obviously like a sex worker and she's just like, you know, bringing John's with her, you know, into a back room.
That's some good advertising.
Come to the movies, you might get laid.
Yeah, but also like she's doing that at a movie where, you know, everyone is like, you know, titillated.
Oh yeah, that's right. Because again, it's "And God Created Woman."
Yeah.
What I kept thinking about in those scenes is the film "The Crowd," the King Vidor's film from 1928, which again, folks. If you can track it down, it's kind of hard to find. For some reason, it's never been on DVD, but it does show up once in a while on TCM or on the Criterion channel. So if you have the streaming Criterion, it will show up on there once in a while. It's a silent film, and you know it's not dissimilar insofar as, again, it's just kind of about, you know, this person's life, right?
Yeah.
The Crowd's an amazing film.
Kind of a sad story about the guy.
Well, yeah, that actually is really sad. But the end of that film is set in a theater and people laughing in a theater, and that sense of community, of being in the crowd. The crowd is humanity. The crowd is all of us, right? And, you know, it's kind of like the end of Sullivan's Travels. Actually, and there's a clip from Sullivan's Travels somewhere in this film.
Oh, I remember that.
I think it's in the kissing montage at the end. You know, but the end of Sullivan's Travels is, if you remember, when he's on the chain gang and they are they bring all the prisoners in to watch the the cartoon. It's like a Mickey Mouse cartoon. Yeah. And they're all laughing, right? Mm-hmm. Same sort of thing. So this film is kind of in dialogue with these other films that are essentially about film, right? On the one hand, yeah, obviously Hollywood loves to pat itself on the back. And I mean, this is not a Hollywood film. This is actually an Italian-French production. But film loves to say, isn't film great? Yeah. But what I appreciate about this is it's showing a bunch of different clips of films, but it's also just showing people living and engaging with film as a part of the way that you live life. And it's just sort of there in the background as you exist as a human being, right? And so that it's just another piece of like being in a community. I love the way that the film really, has this idea of what a community is that makes the end of the film just so sad. Yeah. And beautiful, but sad, right? So yeah, I mean, then the middle of the middle third of the film, I guess, is he falls in once he's a young man, he falls in love with this girl, and he has to join the army because they you used to have to do like national service and stuff, and her father is obviously like a rich guy and does not want them together, and so it's like kind of the typical story, but also she's kind of, I don't want to say she's leading him on, but she's not very serious about the relationship.
Dude, she's got blue eyes, and you know about them. That's what Alfredo says. Like he by now he's blind from the fire and stuff, but he's wise.
Oh yeah, it's a trope. Yeah.
But he says like, "Oh, there's a woman. She's got blue eyes. Oh, yeah, stay away." You know. And then he tells this story about a guy who falls in love with a girl with blue eyes and says he'll stand in front of her window for 100 nights, and then he just leaves on the 99th night, and he won't explain why.
It's a fable. Yeah.
And you think that he's going to do the same thing, but then it goes in a different way.
Well, it goes in a different way in that Toto, he falls in love with this girl, and he's like, "I will wait for you outside," and he kind of tries to do the same thing, and it gets to New Year's Eve, and he thinks she's going to come out, and she just doesn't, and he kind of gives up, and that's it. So Alfredo says to him, "Look, get out of this town. You go to the mainland, there's like some sort of test that he can take."
That's not what happens. They do have an affair.
Well, I know, but it doesn't go anywhere.
Yeah, but I'm just saying that it there is something with them.
Yeah, but okay, but see, this is why I'm talking about do we have to watch the director's cut? Because the way I take the whole thing is, they have this very brief romance, but it doesn't go anywhere, and she leaves him. She goes away to college. She says, "Yeah, sir, I'm going away to college," and I guess we'll keep in touch. But then she never really keeps in touch with him.
I think it's kind of like she's not as obsessed as he is.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
She doesn't take the relationship seriously, and he does. He's in love with her. She's not in love with him.
Yeah.
Yeah. So he comes back from the army. She's gone off to college. And he's basically told, get on with your life.
He gets back, like when he's leaving, he's, say, "Oh, you'll have your job back at the cinema and stuff." And when he comes back, it's like everything is different. And Alfredo talks about it. He says like, yeah, like when you leave for 1 or 2 years and you come back, like the thing that you're longing for is gone, and you're not part of it anymore. It's like once you leave the story, like you can't enter the story again.
Do you think that's true? Do you think if you leave a place for, a certain amount of time, do you never really find your place back in it again?
Yeah. I think if the cast of characters change, then, you're not part of the story anymore. I experienced that myself. I went to art school I was at Tyler for 6 years. Uh-huh. And what happens, when you're there that long, I just, I couldn't decide on a major and that kind of thing. I just kept coming back. And what happens is that everyone leaves, and all these new people come around. It's just a different story, Well,
and then you went off to California.
Well, that was after all that. If you're not just around the same people, like things just change. Mm-hmm. Even though the setting as well as the back of your hand, like it, suddenly you're not part of the story isn't going on anymore.
So he's encouraged, basically, especially by Alfredo, to just leave. Get on with your life, go off to the mainland. And he does. We don't see anything until we're basically back in the present day. But we get the idea that he's become a film director.
Yeah.
And he's very successful. We know he lives in Rome because we see, like shots of, the Victor Emmanuel II, memorial and stuff and whatnot, and him driving around. He flies back to Sicily. And I gotta say, like, even though this film starts in the 80s, when you all of a sudden have that cut to, from him being on the train leaving his town, because, trains are very old-fashioned and whatnot, to flying back on an airplane, it's kind of a shock when you're watching it. Because he spends so much of this film in the 40s and 50s. And, I mean, yes, there were airplanes in the 40s and 50s, obviously, but, there's something sort of weird about suddenly, it's the 80s, right?
And it's weird, like you see the progression slowly. Mm-hmm. There's a couple things that show like for one thing, you see the projectors get different. Like the 50s projector looks like a space rocket.
Yeah. Compared to what the practically silent hand cranked one they were using.
And when he comes back, like not only is the there's this plane and everything, but just the town looks like a modern town.
Yes, I wanted to talk about that.
It's like going to the suburbs.
It's so weird because we spend so much time in this town that it looks basically like it probably looked in like 1650, right? The buildings are very old, and you have this open piazza and all that. And, yes, you have the movie house, but the movie house is in a very old building, and and
it looks so dirty at the end. It looks like this toy that you had that, like, you have all these fond memories of it, then you find it now, and you're like, ew, I don't want to touch that thing.
And so they're having the funeral for Alfredo, and he goes to that. And then he finds out not only is the movie house closed, they're going to tear it down. And so, as you said, we go to the square. We spend so much time in the square or in the rest of the film. And as you say, we go there now. And first of all, it's gray.
Yeah.
Everything's gray. This is not the bright, sunny, rest of the film. This is 1980s.
It's not like the sepia brown.
No.
Yeah.
Now it's all very gray and like just overcast. And as you say, like, it's a car park. It's a parking lot. Mm-hmm. It's everything. There's like modern buildings around, and it's depressing in a way, isn't it?
Yeah. It's like here in our area, everyone always says, "Oh, this used to be a cornfield," or "This used to be a farm." Like everywhere.
And by everyone, you mean me.
No. I mean, like everyone that I know in the suburbs, like almost everywhere you go, it used to be a farm, and now it's like a big bunch of dumb houses.
Yeah, or it's like at some point they're going to tear down what used to be Zern's Farmers Market, and they'll just put up like some McMansions or something, and I will weep, because. I spent so much time there.
If you don't know what Zern's is, you have no idea. It's
like I don't even know how to explain it to people.
Incredible.
It really, God, what we have lost. Not that everything about it was great, but you know what I mean. Yeah, that's true.
There was something.
Yeah, well, America. What can I tell you? But we see he goes to when they're going to have the demolition. And it's so weird being in that square again, only it's the modern era. And it looks more like the kind of janky London suburbs of My Beautiful Laundrette than it does, this, Sicilian piazza of earlier in the film. It's so weird how it looks now, right? They go from the funeral to the demolition, and it's not just him there. There's other people, who were characters earlier in the film, including the guy who had won the lottery, and he bought it, and he ran the place, and he says, the guy who ran the place says to Salvatore, to Toto, yeah, I mean, look, television, people don't really go to the movies. They stay home, they watch television, like, nobody really, it was so weird listening to him talking and thinking, oh, that's where we are now in the States.
Yeah.
It was just sort of chilling, listening to this conversation about how, people aren't going to the movies. And, so, we're just going to tear this down. And that's happened so many times in the United States.
Yeah.
That's happening now. They got rid of the Sam Eric. I'm still mad they got rid of the Sam Eric, the old Boyd Theater. Because that's where I used to go when I was a kid. And they gutted it. They turned it into a sports betting bar, and now that's gone out of business. And I'm still mad about it. You have these people in the crowd, and they are the people who were there when he was a kid, but now everybody is old. And I mean, it was so. The only thing I can compare it to in a way is if you've ever read the end of David Copperfield, where he's kind of going over the different characters of his life, in that last chapter. And if you've read David Copperfield, you know what I'm talking about. If you haven't, that's okay. Just know that, it's sentimental, but I don't know. There's just something that sometimes sentimental isn't bad, right? And then we watch them, implode the building.
Yeah.
I'll be honest, I cried watching that. If they ever tear down the State Theater in Boyertown, I will cry. And yes, it's because I love movies and I love old buildings, and I guess I am a sentimentalist, but you cry, but at the same time it's like, look, everything ends. Everything comes to an end, and I get that, and I think, and the film knows that too.
Alfredo knows that.
Alfredo knew he was dying.
So, but the thing is, like, Alfredo lived for 30 years.
Blind, yeah.
Blind. We don't know anything about that.
Yeah.
Except that he kept talking about Toto or Salvatore.
Yeah.
It was his name. But I feel like Alfredo is what makes this film.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because he like as a character, he's this kind of force of nature. He's a kind of a hypocrite. He's like the typical Italian character of "I will curse you till your dying day." He just says all these terrible things, and the next thing is like, "Oh, why don't you come on up here?" You know,
It's a lot of bluster.
Yeah.
You know, but at the same time, it's like bluster, but with an open hand.
Yeah.
You know, again, that reminds me of Dickens.
Yeah. But he's also kind of a magician. There's this amazing scene where like all these people can't get in to see this movie everybody wants to see, and he turns the plate like this reflector one way so that it's actually showing out onto the square, and then puts the speaker out so they can hear, and like and the priest tries to get them to like charge half price to them and stuff. Turns out this is the time when it catches fire too.
Yeah.
So
yeah, because
you know, like you get too close to the sun, wings gonna melt.
Exactly. You know, it's because he went and tried to show the people the film that everything catches fire and almost kills him. Yeah.
You try to bring down the capitalist system, it's gonna burn you.
Yeah, there is a really interesting kind of undercurrent of politics in this.
The thing is, there's so many like little layers to this film that it doesn't really draw attention to.
Yeah.
But like, you know, like this is the films that, you know, like that immediately came out after World War II in Italy. And the initial films were like these gritty, dark, you know, like
it's like The Bicycle Thieves.
Yeah. Like these classic films and it's
Rome Open City.
Yeah. And, you know, that's another way of the film showing time moving on is that by the 50s, they're showing, you know, Hercules.
No, it was Ulysses with Kirk Douglas. Yeah. And so, yes, but they're showing, like, you know, Ulysses with Kirk Douglas. They're showing, you know, as I said, in God Created a Woman, they're showing Eva Deloni, the Fellini film, you know, they're showing, like, all kinds of, you know, yes, I mean, to some extent, they're getting away from that kind of gritty neo-realist, like films of the 40s into honestly stuff that's much more fun.
Yeah.
You know, and I do like how films are incorporated into this. So when Alfredo is dying, he has this kind of last gift for Toto, and it is, you know, it's in a film canister, and this is the end of the film. It's in a film canister, and so he takes it and, you know, spools it onto, you know, into a camera so he can project it onto a screen. And he's like, okay, what did Alfredo leave me?
That's the actual director, by the way, that showed it. But,
oh, is it?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. He put himself in the film.
Yeah.
Nice. A montage. It's a splicing together of all of the bits that were excised by order of the priest.
Yeah.
So it's all kissing scenes, and it's beautiful though. It's you know, and so you have all of these bits of film, and you know, the only things I can remember offhand is like some Charlie Chaplin stuff.
I feel like there's a Valentino.
There's a lot of Valentino.
Yeah.
Yes. No. I mean, I just mean like the one that I remember best is I think there's like City Lights is in there.
Mm-hmm.
But yes, there's a Valentino. There's like I think it's like The Shake or something.
Yeah.
I brought up Sullivan's Travels. I think is in there. I think I like I was going through IMDb because they happen so fast, and so it's like one thing after another, and like I recognized some, I didn't recognize others. They're all in black and white for the most part that I remember. I think they're all in black and white. So you're just watching all of these old films, and it's all the love scenes, right? It's all these passionate scenes.
But they're also mostly fairly chaste. It's just kisses.
Oh, exactly. Like it's not.
There's like I think a boob for like.
Yeah, and you can tell that's like
0.3 seconds.
It's about as much boob as you see in the movie Wings.
Yeah,
right.
And I was looking for that. I was like, come on, Clara. No, oh well, no Clara Bell.
Yeah. But it's a beautiful scene, and so then you just you watch him watching this and just kind of being like happy and wistful and over just like
yeah,
it's interesting he's watching these love scenes, but it's also a love letter from Alfredo to him,
yeah.
right? It's like I saved all this stuff. This was sort of like an early bone of contention when you were a little child and I was, dealing with the priest and everything. I made this for you. I know what you've become. You've become a director. You love film.
Yeah.
And I mean, it's beautiful, right?
Mm-hmm.
So the end of this film is a montage of films. And yet, unlike so often when you have film celebrating itself and Hollywood patting itself on the back, and it's disgusting so that you have to turn it off and go and rewatch The Player again to kind of wash the taste out of your mouth. This is the opposite of that.
Yeah.
Because this isn't film great. This is more about how art is a way to create love and community with people, right?
Mm-hmm.
In this case, the art is film, but it can be anything. It can be music. It can be paint, cooking. Cooking is an art. Cooking is absolutely, it's an art and it's a science. And it's about sharing meal with people is the same thing as sharing a film with people, right? And I think that's what this is.
Yeah.
This is just like making your favorite dish.
Mm-hmm.
It's really one of the most beautiful endings I've ever seen in a film.
So what do you think of Alfredo? So Alfredo, he basically tells Salvatore, Toto, like, leave, don't come back, don't even think about this place. Just follow your dreams, and definitely don't come see me. Forget about me entirely.
Yeah.
What do you think about his character? Like, what is he? Is he just a teacher? I don't know.
I mean, he's a surrogate father.
Yeah.
Toto's father died in the war. So I think he is a surrogate father. Yeah, he's an imperfect person. Well, there's your question. Do you, if you want to actually pursue your dreams, do you kind of have to cut yourself off from your family in order to do that? I mean, honestly, if you are from a small town in the middle of nowhere and you want to, go out and make art, yeah, you kind of do have to do that, right? You can't stay in your hometown.
Yeah.
You really can't. You have to go to where the art is made. That it actually does sort of, raise the problem of, it's not that there's a paradox there, but yeah, art can and should be about creating something beautiful, not beautiful, but meaningful that, creates a community, that is something that can be a gift between you and the rest of the world. But sometimes in order to do that, you have to cut yourself off from the world. In order to make something, you have to ignore everybody for a while. You can't write while also, doing the laundry and cooking and taking care of your family, right? You can't paint and also hang out with your friends. In order to create something, you have to cut yourself off from humanity. And so, yeah, actually there is an irony. There is a paradox. Yes, you have to leave home in order to make it. Is that fair? No, it's not. But I think that's still true. Even with the internet, I think that's still true. You are not going to make it if you live in, Norristown, Pennsylvania, as compared to New York City, because here we are.
I disagree that you have to. I think there's places where you can stay and do it.
Where?
Like if you lived in New York City.
Well, that's my point, though.
I'm just saying there's 8 million people that live there.
Yeah, and there's 8 billion people in the world.
Well, what I'm saying is that, like, yes, for him, he had to leave.
Yeah.
And, like, yeah, if you lived in Norristown, yeah, you got to leave.
Right.
What are you going to do here? But
exactly, but that's true.
But I'm saying that, like, there are places, where if you
but we're not from there.
I know. I'm just saying you're making this blanket statement. I'm saying that it's not for everyone.
But those people don't count because they're Nepo babies. If you're born in Los Angeles or like New York City and you want to be an artist, great. You're already halfway there. I'm not saying that everybody born in New York or Los Angeles is a Nepo baby, but I am saying, you've already got a leg up because you're already in the place where people are going to like actually talk to you and get you like contacts and all the rest of that stuff. If you're from the middle of nowhere, yeah, you're screwed unless you leave home. You can't go home. What?
I'm just thinking. I don't know.
Well,
I'm thinking about what's that band?
The Embarrassment?
So I was thinking of The Embarrassment, but so they're kind of an example of like, I guess they should have left or something.
Yes.
But who's that band now that we love that now lives in Lawrence?
Sweeping Promises.
Yeah.
Sweeping Promises. Yeah. They live in Lawrence, Kansas.
Yeah.
But, they do get airplay.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, look, Dennis, there can be exceptions to the rule. I don't know that Sweeping Promises is going to hit number 1 on the, Billboard charts, but, honestly, unless you're Taylor Swift, or Chapel Roan, are you? Is anybody going to? No. But even then, Taylor Swift is from like freaking Reading, Pennsylvania.
Yeah.
She left.
She's different.
But in so far as...
I'm just saying
I mean, her dad's a hedge fund manager or something, so that helped. But
I'm just saying there's different. I don't know.
I mean, look, there's different types of success, and it all depends on what you want to do. But let's say you want to make movies. You can't stay in the middle of nowhere and make movies.
Yeah.
So yeah, Alfredo's right. Get out. Don't stay in Sicily. Yes. Okay. Look, if you are Richard Linklater, you can stay in Austin, Texas. But most people aren't Richard Linklater.
Whenever I hear a, like you have to do this, I'm like, I feel like there's.
No, you're just reflexively pushing it back against me.
Oh, I have to. I don't know.
The name of this show is not Dennis versus Mary. It's Mary versus the movies.
Oh, me and the movies sometimes. We're on the same side.
I overrule.
Me and Zaslav have it all figured out.
Oh God. You really are just gonna side you're just gonna side with the devil and everything, aren't you?
Oh, it is in my initials. I can't think of any other film like it. Although, you know what? Like, how do you think it compares to, like, say, Meet the Fabelmans?
Okay, first of all, it's just called The Fabelmans. It's not Meet the Fabelmans, which you're conflating with Meet the Feebles.
Is it?
Yes. It's just called The Fabelmans. It's not called Meet the Fabelmans. It's not the same. Look, I think those are not... I mean, they're different films because that's as much about, like, a marriage dissolving.
It is called The Fabelmans.
Yes, it's not. Yes, I told you. Why would I lie?
I don't know.
God.
My memory sucks.
Anyway, look, yes, they're both are films about like directors when they're young and how they fall in love with film. I think it's not a bad companion piece. I do think that they're a little bit different because, The Fabelmans is about a marriage falling apart and what it does to a family.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's not a dissimilar film in a way.
And and this film has a broader, like, it's examining like Italian film and
yeah. But you know what? Again, that's not a bad pull.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that was Cinema Paradiso, starring Philippe Noiret. Oh gosh, now I'm gonna be stuck here because I think most of the names are Italian, but there's a couple of French actors, and I'm not sure. Like, if your name is Philippe Noiret, probably the guy who plays Alfredo. I'm guessing he's French. Jacques Perrin, who plays Toto as an adult, he is French. Who else is in this? I'm so sorry, folks. Antonella Attili, that plays his mother. Enzo Cannavale. Who else is in this? Agnese Nano, that's Elena. Leopold Trieste as the priest. And Salvatore Cascio as youngest Toto. Oh, Marco Leonardi. Okay, so those are the 3 Totos. I'm sorry, folks. It's like I'm looking at IMDb and they've got the names kind of scattered all over the place. It's not in any order, and so I'm like kind of like spooling through, and I'm like, I don't even know how to say these names. Written and directed by Giuseppe Tornatore. I think this is like only his second movie, maybe, which is kind of incredible.
So I will say there is a dog. I mean, besides the fact that the lead character's name is Toto, but
no, wait a minute. Yeah,
it's the most famous dog in the world.
Yeah, it's true.
But also there's a dog in the square,
dog.
and he greets him after the girl stands him up. Yep. Because dogs are far more reliable than other people.
Well, yeah, fair enough.
So I was satiated with dogs, and it's
there's dogs.
Not like Chariots of Fire amounts of dogs, but but still a good dog.
There's a good dog. There's definitely death.
Yeah.
I wouldn't say there was a love triangle.
Yeah. There's at least like 4 coffins, 3 or 4 coffins in this one.
Yeah. There's a fair amount of death.
Yeah, it's almost obsessed with death, this movie.
All right. Well, you can follow us on social media. We're Mary VS Movies on all of your major platforms. Yes, we still have an account over on X because that's where a lot of people still are, but yeah, you know. We're on Blue Sky, Mastodon, Tumblr, although I'm having trouble updating the Tumblr for some reason. Instagram, TikTok. We have a TikTok where we have our videos with our mascot Reggie. Let's see. Instagram. I said, basically, we have a Facebook page, which is kind of useful. So follow us in any of those places. Let's see. We are on all of your major platforms, from Apple Podcasts, where you can rate and review the show. We would really appreciate it if you did. To we're now on YouTube even, so you can find us on there. You can find us on Spotify. You can find us on, wherever podcasts are available. You can always go to the Libsyn website and get our RSS feed and plug it into whatever your podcatcher of choice is. We have a Patreon where you can help support the show because, as you have noticed, we do not have ads. We are not on a network. This is all being done out of our own pockets, and it costs money because we have to rent films, or in this case, we actually bought the film. We have to pay for the server costs. We have the Zoom account. So in order to help support the show, for $3 a month, you can join our Patreon at patreon.com/MaryVSMovies. Do not sign up through the Apple app because that just, they have this weird fee thing now where they take like a third of the money that you spend on the signing up for a Patreon, and like Apple just eats it. So use a web browser if you're going to do that. I'm not sure that if they just charge you an extra fee, or if the money just doesn't get to us. I'm not sure how that's going to work, but the point is, just don't use the Patreon app to sign up for us. Go onto a web browser. But if you do that, you get access to a whole other show that we do called Hollywood Avalon, where once a month we put out movies that are about King Arthur, essentially, or something Arthurian, the Holy Grail, Morgan Le Fay, Merlin, all that stuff. So this is anything from watching Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade or The Fisher King to Transformers: The Last Night, which is going to be our next episode and might come out around the same time this episode comes out, which we have a special guest for, which is very exciting. The King of Janitors was on to talk about Transformers: The Last Night with us. But we also watched an actual monarch to talk about an Arthurian film. But it's also stuff like the movies from the 50s, like Knights of the Round Table starring Robert Taylor. We did a couple of episodes all about Camelot, the musical and the film. Bugs Bunny cartoons. Anything. If it's Arthurian, if it's television shows, we've been covering television shows too. If it's Arthurian, we cover it. So if you sign up at the Patreon, you get access to this other show. All right. Next episode, I have no idea. I have some stuff cooking. I've got some ideas, but I don't really want to say anything. So, we will have another episode as soon as possible. Basically, we have a potential guest coming up soon, but we still have to record all of that.
I'm never going to flip a coin again, am I?
Yes, you are. Yes. Come the new year, everything will be back to normal. And, okay.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, sure. It'll be fine. No, it won't be fine. But you will be back to flipping a coin. So, yes, we will have a new episode out soon, but I have no idea what that episode is going to be just yet. So, but until next time.
It's my square. My square. The square is mine.